I saw this creepy smiling girl on Omegle, and she won't stop following us now. I was drunk on Omegle with my friends, laughing at all the weirdos and musicians that we skipped through. Eventually we got to a room, a dark and empty one, with a weird humming sound. After a second we skipped it. Again the room was there, but this time a chair was in frame. We skipped again, but this time we saw a girl, smiling, staring straight at the camera. We tried saying hello or interacting with her, but we got no response. We eventually got so freaked out that we closed the laptop. Eventually the guys went home and I went to sleep preparing for work tomorrow. The next day while at work, I got a call from my friend. He said he was at the mall and told me that he saw the girl from Omegle in the far distance and she was staring at him. I didn't know what to do. Have you heard of the crack monster Sesame Street short that went missing? This short first aired in 1975, but then after some time disappeared, only remaining as a blurry memory in the minds of kids in the 70s. Discussions began appearing in the late 2000s of people recalling seeing this eerie bumper. They recall seeing a monster shaped in the form of a crack on the wall. Voice actor Joan Armand was one of the searchers online, and he claimed that he received a fax at work which told him that they would send him a copy as long as he didn't share the footage online. 6 months later, a DVD appeared in his mailbox. It had no stamp and no return address, meaning that whoever sent this did so personally. Then the Lost Media Wiki founder tried contacting the studio behind Sesame Street and didn't have much luck, but then he received an anonymous email which contained the short. Although there were no instructions saying that he couldn't post it online, so he did. Some believe that the leaker could have been an employee within the Sesame Street studios, but we'll never know. The short was probably pulled because the war on drugs was just on the horizon, so the short kinda came at the wrong time, but no one's sure why today it was kept such a secret. So why are clowns scary? And no, not these clowns, these ones. There's actually a reason for it. It's called the incongruent effect. This is when a human's emotion doesn't add up with the situation presented. At a funeral, you probably wouldn't laugh at the fact that someone died, or become depressed because you're buying your dream car. Similarly, clowns are portrayed as being happy and entertaining. That's why in a circus, they seem to fit well within the atmosphere. But if you put them in a scary setting, yeah. Similarly, when you think about Michael Myers, it's also very unnerving to see an expressionless face kill someone. Have you heard of the lost live-action Backyardigans pilot? Before its 2004 debut, Backyardigans was going to be live-action, and under a different name called Me and My Friends. The pilot for the show was declined by Nickelodeon, causing the show to go 3D and become what we know to exist today. But today there is a scarce amount of lost footage behind the pilot. The full footage has yet to be seen. All that was discovered was this 3-second clip, which was found from a tape from 2000 celebrating Nickelodeon's 10-year anniversary. The full footage has yet to be seen. Do you know about the missing football team in Red Dead 2? If you go to Tall Trees, you'll find a group of bodies. There's no wounds of sorts on them, but some have bags over their heads. Nearby you can find a rock which has some arms and legs shaped as the letter B, representing the team's logo. Some have suspected that the killer is a man named Edmund Lowry Jr., a person who has killed before. Why him? That same B on the rock can also be found in his shack. Coincidence? My family went missing on the Cat in the Hat ride, so I rode it. As it entered the room with Thing 1 and 2, it began to slow down. I was in the dark now. I could hear crawling on the tracks behind me. Then the sound came above me. The lights eventually came back and I was in a new room, but there was no music playing. I got an eerie feeling of what I saw in front of me. I saw Sally, Conrad, and their mom, but Conrad and the mom looked off. They looked lifelike. When I got closer, I realized that they looked like my wife and my son. The ride eventually reached the exit, where I was freaking out. When I tried to tell the ride attendants, I was kicked out of the park, and I got no new updates about my missing family. I went back to the hotel, only to find that my son and wife's suitcase were missing. Both of their plane tickets were cancelled, but mine wasn't. At this point, as you can imagine, I was confused. What happened? I found a Chuck E. Cheese animatronic in the desert, and things got kinda weird. My wife and I traveled to Death Valley, where we set up camp for a little getaway. The next day when I awoke and looked around, I saw a figure in the far distance. At first I thought it was a person. I tried waving at them but didn't get a response, so I drove over to its direction. To my surprise, it was a Chucky animatronic. It had an unlegible note on it, so I tossed that out and took the Chucky home with me. I knew my 6-year-old son would love it. I fixed it up and put it in his room. He absolutely glowed when he saw it functioning. Later that night, we all went downstairs to eat dinner. I opened the door and it was our neighbor. "Could you please stop?" "What?" "That puppet of yours in the window is waving at kids and it's scaring them. It's not funny." I walked upstairs and Chucky was far from the window. What did this mean? My husband found a Chuck E. Cheese animatronic in the desert, and now my son has claimed that it's speaking to him. Sometimes in bed, I'd wake up in the middle of the night and feel like I'm not alone. Well, besides him being there. One night in the kitchen, I was cutting carrots, and I heard a loud bang. I put my knife down and walked over to the sound. The floor below the staircase had a gap in it, like something fell. I went back to the kitchen and saw that my knife was missing. The door was fully opened. I went upstairs into my son's playroom and saw that Chucky wasn't there. My neighbor found this Chucky in the desert, and apparently he escaped. At 10 p.m., Sam Myers was babysitting the Ferguson kids. It sounded like the back door opened. Sam told the kids that she'd be back. When she went into the kitchen, she saw the door was opened, eventually going upstairs. It was dark, all except for one of the kids' bedrooms that had their light on. She looked inside. Oh, it's just the family cat. What am I gonna do with you? The kids heard the screaming and ran upstairs. The room was empty except for the cat, but then they looked inside the closet. Chucky once again escaped.